Okay, so if you hop on the rings and it looks like you're trying to do a Season 1 Eren Yeager impression, then you've obviously got some work to do. But even if you don't, you should add in a few sets of support holds at the end of your training. It's a lot more important than some of you may think, and when I first started training, I neglected these for a long time. When you can start doing more than one muscle up in a row, the support hold becomes your reset point, where you'll get up there, you might take a few deep breaths, hype yourself up for the next rep, and these few seconds spent here will add up, especially when you start getting up into the higher rep ranges. Every bit of extra energy you're using to keep the ring stable will have some impact on your next rep, and that impact could be pretty significant if you're not used to including support holds into your training, or you never really get into that straight arm position for too long if you're training reps with bad form or whatever. So even if they may not seem so beneficial now, put the work in for your future self and minimize how much added fatigue your body accumulates when you start getting to those higher rep ranges. I would include at least one set at the end of every muscle up training session. You can add more depending on how fatigued you feel, but do include them at the end of your training. My second biggest mistake when training the muscle up was training to complete failure when I could only do 1 to 2 reps, and I would not only do this every session, but I would do it every set. So I should have had a few sessions where I trained each element of the muscle up individually to build up my capacity, to build up my strength, and then throw in a session where I would focus on the muscle up. Alternatively, what could have also worked very well would have been training the muscle up every session, but training it with some sort of assistance. So using a band, using your feet, using a stool, something to make it lighter, so I wouldn't have just been banging out one shitty rep. When I unlocked my first muscle up, I thought, this is great, I just have to keep repeating this until I can do more and more reps, which eventually did happen, but my progress would have been a lot faster if I had taken my ego out of the equation and scaled it back to the basics. But instead, I smashed out single reps with bad form, maybe only hitting 30% of my attempts at the beginning, and I would do this for months on end. The amount of sessions I wasted training like this was embarrassing, and I hope you don't make the same mistake. When you can only do 1 to 2, sometimes even 3 reps, your form suffers. You build up an unnecessary amount of fatigue for the next sets, and for your next sessions, you'll have to take more rest days because your training is just so intense. When you can start doing 3 to 5 muscle ups, that's when you can start training them individually, but you have to stop before they start getting sloppy. So even if you've just got your first muscle up and you're super keen to train it, build up your strength in a more effective way and come back to the basics, use assistance, and do those more than you train the muscle up itself. The third biggest mistake I made was not training the transition. So when most people learn the muscle up, they've done pull-ups, they've done dips, so they have a little bit of catching up to do with the transition, but I ignored it completely. So the skill gap just kept widening and widening, which held me back for ages. I was too impatient to treat the transition as an element of the muscle up itself, and instead I just thought, if I just pull high enough, I'll be able to throw myself into a dip, which I was able to do, but it meant my muscle up had no control. The transition is the backbone of your muscle up. It's a seamless shift from push to pull. It's a great demonstration of shoulder strength, being able to move into extension under load. It's a beautiful sequence. Build up your capacity for them and your muscle ups will flourish. You can train these using a band or just using your feet for assistance. I would start off slow and light, especially if your shoulder isn't used to being extended this much. And once you've built up enough strength, I would try to master the negative muscle up, focusing on keeping that transition slow before you move on to learning the muscle up itself. This is something I did not do, and my progress suffered because of it. Hope you got something out of this video. Leave a comment below if you'd like to request a tutorial, and keep training smart.